Welcome to Global Risk Community Chat. Today our guest is Kyria Ali. I'm very happy to have you here today, Kyria. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great. So before we get into our topic for today, can you briefly introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. My name is Kyria Ali, and I'm a C-suite executive at one of the largest privately owned insurance companies in the Caribbean. Our group presently serves 21 islands in the property and casualty, as well as life and health space. And I'm also a director of a business advisory firm, Go-To Advisors Limited.
Sounds cool. So what topic will you be sharing with us today?
Well, I'd like to shine a light on a current possible property insurance affordability crisis that we're facing and what we can also do about it.
Yeah, sounds good. So, well, it sounds like a serious topic as well. So let's get into it then. So what would be some key things about it? What would be some important things?
Well, I think it's good to start with how did we get to where we are today? And what are the root causes? What's causing this crisis? And number one would be climate change. This is on the top of everyone's radar, and we have seen it. We've seen natural disasters worldwide. In the last 5 years, over 300 billion has been paid out by insurance and reinsurance companies. And of course, we've just seen what's happened in Turkey. It's not a nice scene at all, but climate change is causing us to now have to incur higher losses. And reinsurers, because of the higher losses, are reducing capacity. And by capacity, I mean coverage. So persons who own properties are struggling to get cover for what they need to protect when there's a catastrophe. And to top it all off, if that wasn't bad enough, we've seen inflation, high levels of inflation and supply chain disruption. And the blend of all of these things is formed somewhat of a perfect storm. And it really is the reason that we are where we are today. That whole scenario that I've just laid out has actually caused price increases between 40 to 60% in North America. Reinsurers have charged that increase on insurers. Then in Europe, if that wasn't bad enough, Europe is seeing 25 to 35%. And in the Caribbean, 20 to 40%. What does that mean? That means insurers cannot carry that extra cost. And they have to now pass it on to the insureds, the policyholders. And that therein lies the crisis. The crisis of can we property owners afford to buy insurance? When we have extra costs passed on to the insureds, it creates issues as in, can they actually get insurance? Because you have a high level of demand and a low supply. So persons who are looking to, say, for example, build new homes, or even countries with sustainable development initiatives, new projects, can they actually source insurance? Can they get cover? And if they can't get cover, what do? This is the dilemma. And with that extra cost and low capacity, what we will see, and this is a very unfortunate thing that we will see, is an increase in underinsurance and an increase in uninsureds. And that means more people will be taking risk of no disaster happening when we know from what we're seeing, there will be continued disasters, there will be increases. So there will be a shortfall.
Very well said, or unfortunate news essentially, because like we see prices of increasing, as you said, there's like a property crisis, there is the energy crisis, there is the everything happening. So from both of the ends, so from a property owner's end, but also from insurers, and what would be the maybe things to focus on to mitigate as much as possible there is?
Yes, thanks for that. Indeed, there are things we can do. And I believe the collective we being insurers, reinsurers, retro markets, governments, there's a lot we can do. Because the reality is no one person can solve this on their own. So what has to happen is investors really need to not withdraw from the reinsurance and insurance market. It starts there. Capital is required. And we speak a lot about capital as a risk, right? Do we have sufficient capital? And it is a valid one. If people pull out of the market, we will not be able to provide cover. right? And the thing is, we focus on profits, but people are also important. And we have to remember, there can be no profits without people. So I start first by saying, what can be done? Investors need to stay in the insurance and reinsurance market. Yes, you could probably get bonds at a decent rate with lower risk, but focus on the people. Without insurance, there can be no development, and we cannot focus or get our initiatives done to reverse or stall climate change. So let's start there. And I put a challenge out to all the reinsurers and insurers out there. Let's make it happen. Number two, I would say governments start investing in programs such as CRIF. And what is CRIF? CRIF is a parametric facility that governments, for example, in the Caribbean and Central America, have invested in to limit the cost that they will incur should a disaster hit their territory and that their people are not insured, for example. And just last year, actually, Central America and Trinidad, Tobago, Antigua and Barbuda, they got 15.2 million back from that program. Imagine if they did not have that program. They would have to dig in their coffers, probably increase their deficits or their debts to help their country. So tip for governments, invest in your country now because disasters will continue. Build plans because you need to be able to cover when your people cannot afford it. I also want to say that governments should not stop their sustainable development initiatives. Continue with your ESG programs. Build in financing for it. There's a lot of green finance now. Look into it, invest. And also, there are things that individuals, such as yourself, myself, and any property owner can do, whether you're a business owner or an individual. Number one, when you're constructing, construct smarter and stronger. Remember where you live. Assess the risks where you are. If you are living in a hurricane-prone zone, consider how you can build stronger and smarter. I myself personally went through Hurricanes Irma and Maria in 2017, and I can tell you that was devastating. I lost half my roof thinking my house was well constructed. However, nothing can really withstand a Cat 5 event, but there are things I could have done better and smarter, and I have learned from that. So I say to all property owners, take time, build smart, build strong to withstand the risk in your region. Challenge your contractors. Also, reduce your risk of underinsurance. Get your property reassessed for the reconstruction value. I could put it very simply. The cost to rebuild your home today, just think of it, with inflation, supply chain disruption, is much higher than it would have been 2 to 3 years ago. So don't think that if you insure your home for the same value as you did last year or the year before, that if you were to incur a loss now, it would be sufficient. It would not be. You're likely underinsured. So don't put that to chance. Go get your property reassessed. And budgeting. It may sound basic, but it's so important. Budget for insurance. I know some people are facing the dilemma. Should I buy insurance for my home and sacrifice a basic need item? This is a reality that some people really are facing. I say, look, again, because I have been through it, do not take that chance. You should not gamble on where you put your head to sleep or rest at night. Budget for it. Calculate the daily or the weekly cost for your insurance and set that aside. When we think of annual, it sounds big, but if you break that down into smaller bits, it becomes more affordable and you can work things out. So those are some of the things that I would recommend that we as a collective, we again can do to fix this.
Thank you for sharing that as well. As you said, like no single person can prevent a lot of the things, but there is a lot of things we can still individually do to, like do as much as possible as we can. And with that, I want to follow up on one last question, and that would be, you shared all these steps, which are more, I would say, like short to long term. But if our listeners are listening right now, the ones that are listening, were to start doing something tomorrow when they, get to their work or something, what should be the first thing they should just right away look into?
Okay, so it depends on where you are in business. Number one, if you are a manager in your business, I would say bring awareness of this fact to your superiors, to your boards. Why? You need to determine how your business can help in one shape or form. If you are not in insurance and you're not in reinsurance, you are unlikely to be able to change the price of insurance or reinsurance. But you can contribute to a more sustainable world. So focus on the ESG initiatives. If, however, you are in a reinsurance or insurance community or company, I challenge you, I encourage you, have the discussion with your superiors. How much capacity are we deploying for catastrophes? Why are we pulling out? Challenge them. Ask, what can we do better? Not just reduce our risk profile, but focus on the people. Have those very difficult discussions, because many times I can see it even in our boardrooms. The discussion is shifting to profit. How does this help our company? And we sometimes lose sight of the bigger picture, which is the people. So these are things I could say you can do in your business community. Have the discussions on ESG. If you can change something about the capacity or the pricing, focus on that. And if you're in government, start planning. What are we doing? What are we doing for our people? Do we have a plan? Are we in programs such as CRIF? Do we have a fund? If not, can we create one? Think big. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you so much for sharing that as well, Kyria. And with that being said, unfortunately, we have run out of our time for today. So yeah, I want to thank you in general for everything you have shared today, all of these insights, and I think very important topic, I think globally affecting topic, seeing all these disasters happening, unfortunate other things happening. So yeah, thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much for having me as well.
Likewise. Have a great day.
You too.